Welcome back to Adeana's Diary. Today's episode, we're going to dive a little bit darker and scarier, but honestly, the information I'm putting out today, I am hoping to save you years of heartbreak, exhaustion, and trauma. And what we are talking about today is what psychologists call the Dark Triad. Now, the Dark Triad is basically a specific group of incredibly toxic, calculating personality traits that some people carry. And when you are a naturally loving, empathetic, kind person, you are exactly the kind of person these people target. I want to break down exactly what this is, how these people operate, and what the massive warning signs are when you're first dating someone so that you never end up with a person like this. And more importantly, I want to talk about what it actually feels like when you are stuck inside a relationship with one of these individuals. Because if you don't know what's happening, you will literally feel like you're losing your mind. So if you're currently in a relationship right now and you feel like you're in the middle of a tornado, and by the time you're done a conversation or argument with your partner, you are like, what the heck just happened? This episode may be for you. If you are sitting there completely confused, stressed out, and second guessing your own reality, this episode may be for you. So let's be completely honest for a second. When you operate from a place of love and kindness, you naturally assume everyone else does too. You project your own goodness onto the people you meet. If someone hurts you, you think, oh, they must just be having a bad day, or they must have some childhood trauma that makes them act out this way. You look at them with empathy and you try to heal them or fix them in some way. But I think the most important thing to understand is that there are people in this world who do not have the ability to feel empathy, remorse, or genuine love. They just don't. They don't look at your kind heart and think, wow, what a beautiful soul. They look at you and think, wow, this is a person I can take advantage of. They will look at you and think, this is someone who will let me push them around and give me whatever I want. And it's a really hard pill to swallow sometimes. And it's honestly heartbreaking to realize that some people are just built like this. But knowing this can help protect you and years of trauma, right? And so it really strips away the naive hope that we can save everyone, and it replaces it with the absolute clarity we need to keep ourselves safe. So let's break down what the dark triad is. The dark triad is a mix of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Now, when we hear narcissist, it's always thrown around kind of too commonly now, where everyone that takes too many selfies or every ex that is a little bit selfish is called a narcissist, which I really don't like because it takes away from those who have been in a narcissistic relationship, where it's almost like they're not believed. But in this case, we're talking about the narcissist that has that grandiose personality, that narcissist that is completely obsessed with oneself, right? A person that it truly believes they are better than everyone else on the planet. They feel entitled to everything. They think the rules don't apply to them, and they have an insatiable, bottomless need for attention and praise. It's like an energetic black hole. You can pour all your love, your compliments, your time, your energy into them, and it will never be enough to truly fill them up. They will literally drain you dry just to keep their own massive ego inflated. Now, Machiavellianism is basically someone who is incredibly calculating, cold, and hyper manipulative. For a person like this, life is literally just a game of chess. And every single person they meet is a pawn to be used, moved around, or thrown away whenever it suits them. They don't do relationships for emotional connection. They don't care about love. They care about utility. Their mind is always asking, what can this person do for me? How can I use them to get money, status, power, or comfort? And how can I trick them into doing it without them realizing I'm pulling the strings? They are actually terrifying, and they will play the long game, pretending to be your best friend, your protector, or your loyal partner. But it truly is all a performance so that they can gain your trust to position themselves to take whatever they want from you. And then the third is psychopathy. Entertainment has us looking at psychopaths as if, through through the lens of horror films. But the truth is that a lot of psychopaths walk among us every day. They wear expensive business suits. They have lots of money. They're CEOs of businesses and corporations and companies. But a psychopath has the complete absence of a conscience. They do not feel guilt. They do not feel remorse if they hurt you, if they break your heart, if they ruin your reputation or take your money. They will look you right in the eyes and feel absolutely nothing. No pit in their stomach, no sleepless nights, absolutely nothing. In fact, they might even find it funny because they don't feel fear, anxiety, or guilt. They come across as incredibly confident and magnetic. And this is exactly what makes them so incredibly dangerous when you meet them, especially in the dating world. So, when these three traits come together in one person, they feed each other in the worst way possible. The narcissist arrogance makes them feel like they have the right to treat people badly. The Machiavellian part of them creates a smart, sneaky plan to do it. And the psychopathic part allows them to execute that plan with cold, remorseless efficiency. It is a perfect storm of emotional destruction, really. So let's first talk about the dating phase, because this is where you need to be, really sharp and kind of on your A game. How do you spot someone like this before you get completely wrapped up in their world, before you're emotionally invested, and or before you sign a lease or share a bank account with them? The trickiest thing about dating a dark triad person is that they do not start out looking like a monster. Of course, if they walked up to you on a first date and showed you who they really were, you would grab your bags and run. Instead, they present themselves as the absolute answer to all your prayers. And I think that should be a number one red flag. They are going to ask you questions about the type of people you like, what your hobbies are, what do you love? What do you like? They want to get to know you so that they can utilize it for their own benefit. They want to figure you out. They want to figure out exactly what you want, what your insecurities are, and what your deepest dreams are. And then they put a mask that fits that perfectly. So, this brings us to the very first most explosive red flag that you truly need to watch for. And that is love bombing and really rushing the intimacy. Love bombing is this intense, overwhelming, totally over the top campaign of affection, compliments, and attention right at the beginning. In the first 2 or 3 weeks of meeting a person like this, you will feel like you are staring in a romance movie. They will text you good morning every single day, text you all day long, send flowers to your job, and take you on these crazy romantic dates. They will also look at you after 10 days and say things like, I've never felt this way about anyone in my life, or you are my absolute soulmate. We are destined to be together, or I'm already thinking about a future house and our kids. All of these things where when they really truly don't know you, they shouldn't really be saying that. And even though it feels good, that's when we have to really stop and ask ourselves, like, is this normal? Should this person really be saying this to me? Like, yes. And that's kind of the hard part is that, yeah, it feels good. You're on cloud nine and you have this person that is everything you've ever asked for. But 2 weeks into dating, it's not healthy and it's not normal. And that's when you really need to kind of stop and put the brakes on things. Now, when you're single and you've been wanting a good relationship, again, it feels amazing, right? It's intoxicating, but you have to stop and take a breath and actually tune into your body. And you will feel this weird undercurrent of pressure. Listen to your intuition. You will feel that it's going too fast. It feels intense. It feels totally unearned. This person doesn't even know you yet, right? They don't know what you look like when you're cranky. They don't know your flaws. They don't know everything or anything about you, yet they are treating you like you're the center of the universe. So, this is a massive warning. And the calculating, sneaky nature of this behavior is that it's a total setup, right? By showering you with all of this praise, all of this validation, they are conditioning you to become addicted to their approval. At the same time, they are building up this massive emotional debt that they are going to use against you at some point later to make you feel guilty and control you once the mean behavior starts. So it's like they shower you with this love bombing, but it's to kind of wrap you up and get you addicted to it. Now, the second red flag is something called manufactured soulmate illusion. And this is just extreme mirroring. These dark personalities are like emotional predators. They sit back and observe you very closely. In your early conversations, they may ask you intense questions about your past, your childhood, your worst heartbreaks, and your biggest dreams. When you're a kind, open person, you think, wow, this is amazing. This person actually wants to get to know me, someone who cares about my soul. But the problem is that they're not doing that because they care. They're doing it because they're taking this psychological audit on you. They're taking notes on your weak spots, your fears of being abandoned, and what you feel like you're missing in life. Once they have that information, they start acting like an exact double. If you tell them, the certain type of music that you like, the type of movies, and then all of a sudden they like the same movies, they like the same music you like, the same type of car, just, stuff like that, or even dress the same way. They start to mirror you, everything that you like too. If your dream is to move to a small beach town or out in the country, they will tell you that they've been looking at real estate, out in the country, or they've always wanted to build a house out in the country, whatever the case is. If you tell them about an ex boyfriend who cheated on you and broke your heart, they will get passionately angry and tell you how much they hate cheaters or how loyalty is their number one rule in life. It's a perfect copy of everything you want. The red flag here is that this person doesn't actually seem to have a solid, distinct identity of their own. They're actually like a mirror to reflect back exactly what you want to see, right? Hiding the fact that behind that mirror is just a cold, calculated person who is gathering ammunition to use against you the moment you step out of line. This also helps you fall more in love with them because I think they feel like if they mirror you, then they're more appealing to you. So it's used to not only get closer to you, but also to use against you later on. Another huge red flag, which you can spot early, is what I call preemptive victimhood or always having a villainous backstory. Pay very close attention to how this person talks about their exes, their old friends, their former business partners, or even their family. A dark triad person is fundamentally incapable of taking real accountability or responsibility for anything bad that has ever happened in their life. So if they're constantly always blaming their ex, blaming their mother, blaming their brother, their boss, coworker, whatever, that is another huge red flag. If they are the hero or the complete innocent victim in every story they tell, and everyone else is a monster, a traitor, just completely crazy, that's a huge red flag. When they tell you about their past relationships, every single ex will be described as psychotic, bipolar, abusive, obsessive, or out ruining their life. They will plant this sad picture of themselves as this incredibly giving, saintly person who just kept getting taken advantage of by horrible, cruel people. Now, look, we all know that good people can end up in toxic relationships, of course. And this is why I think it's so hard that narcissism is thrown around the way it is, because we don't want to discredit somebody's past narcissistic relationship. But the red flag with these specific people is that there is zero nuance, zero self reflection, and zero personal accountability. They never say, yeah, I stayed too long because my boundaries were bad, or honestly, it was just a toxic situation and we both made mistakes. It is always a black and white story where they are completely blameless and it's everyone else's fault and everyone else is evil. So if you listen closely, this is a literal trailer for the movie you are about to star in. The exact moment you stop doing what they want, or the moment you call them out on a lie, you are going to become the next crazy ex in their story. Now, the fourth flag you'll notice early on is what I like to call micro violations and boundary testing. In the first few weeks, a dark triad person will deliberately push against your small boundaries just to see what you will tolerate and how easily you can be manipulated. This can look like them showing up 30 minutes late to a date and not even apologizing, making a passive aggressive joke about what you're wearing or how you speak, canceling or changing plans at the very last minute just to see what you will do. or to see if you will drop everything and rearrange your entire schedule to accommodate them. When things like this happen and you politely express that you don't like it or you stand up for yourself, you need to watch their reaction with absolute focus. A normal, healthy, nice person will listen to you, apologize, and change their behavior because they actually care about your feelings and want you to be comfortable. A dark triad person will immediately flip it onto you. They will start gaslighting you and make you feel bad for even bringing anything up. So they will say things like, "Oh my God, you're way too sensitive. It was just a joke. Why are you so insecure?" Or, "Wow, if you actually loved me, you wouldn't make such a big deal out of nothing." These little moments are compliance tests. They're testing the strength of your self esteem and your boundaries. If they see what you accept when it has to do with their bad behavior, if you apologize for making a fuss, or if you swallow your feelings just to keep the peace, they know they have the green light to take things to a much more abusive level later on. So now let's step inside the relationship, because this is the part of the episode that is truly heavy, but so necessary, because the shift from that perfect, magical love bombing phase to the mean, critical devaluation phase is so subtle and so calculated that it can completely break your brain, like literally. If you are listening to this right now and you are currently in a relationship that feels confusing, stressful, I want you to take a deep breath. Let what I'm about to say be a lifeline of truth to pull you out of the fog, okay? The number one emotional sign that you are with a dark triad person is that you live in a state of constant, chronic confusion. You are trapped in what psychology calls cognitive dissonance, which basically just means your brain is forced to hold two completely opposite beliefs at the exact same time. On one hand, you have the memory of that amazing, loving, perfect soulmate from the first few months. On the other hand, you are looking at this person in front of you who is cold, mean, dismissive, and manipulative on a daily basis. Because that initial love bombing phase was so intense, your brain literally became chemically and emotionally hooked on their validation. When they suddenly pull it away, you go into emotional withdrawal. And because you are a good person, you automatically assume that you must have done something wrong to cause this change. You start thinking, oh, if I can just be a better partner, or if I can stop complaining, or if I can cook their favorite meals, or, whatever the case is, it's a trap. It's designed exactly this way. They intentionally withhold love and affection to make you chase them, turning the relationship from a partnership into an exhausting, desperate game where you are constantly begging for their approval. Inside the relationship, their absolute favorite weapon is to keep control over you by gaslighting you. Now, we hear this word all the time, but true gaslighting is a systematic way of making you doubt your own sanity, your own memory, and your own judgment, and your own intuition. It goes way beyond just disagreeing about a fact. A dark triad partner will look you dead in the eye and flatly deny things that you saw with your own eyes and heard with your own ears. If you find text messages on their phone where they are flirting with another person, they will look at you and say you're imagining things, that you're crazy, that you hacked their phone because you're paranoid, or that the messages don't mean what you think they mean. They will say things like, "I never said that," or they will rewrite history. They will tell you that you're mentally unstable and your mother thinks so, and your whole family thinks so, and everybody knows it. And they will say things with such absolute calmness and such total certainty that you will actually start to second guess yourself. You'll start keeping secret journals or recording conversations on your phone, or texting your friends to ask, "Am I crazy? Did I misinterpret this?" Well, let me tell you this. The second you find yourself looking for external proof just to confirm your own sanity, you're experiencing severe gaslighting. The goal of this tactic is to completely break your internal compass, because once you don't trust your own mind anymore, you become completely dependent on their version of reality, giving them total control over your life. Now, the next major sign inside the relationship is the roller coaster pattern. called intermittent reinforcement, which creates a brutal trauma bond. And this is the psychological glue that makes leaving a person like this feel almost physically impossible. Intermittent reinforcement is a pattern where they treat you horribly and ignore you. But then out of nowhere, they throw in these sudden, unpredictable bursts of affection, love, and intimacy. And it's actually the exact same mechanism that makes people get addicted to slot machines. If a slot machine never paid out money, you would walk away after 5 minutes. But because it pays out completely at random, your brain releases this massive spike of dopamine every time you pull the lever, keeping you hooked for hours. So, in your relationship, after days of giving you the silent treatment, treating you like you don't exist, or tearing down your self esteem, this person will suddenly wake up one morning and be incredibly sweet, bring you breakfast, or tell you how beautiful you are. Your entire nervous system floods with relief. You think, oh, thank God, the nightmare is over. The real them is back, but it's a total illusion. The cruelty and the kindness are just two parts of the same manipulative game. This constant up and down creates a literal neurological addiction in your brain, forming a powerful bond that ties your peace, your survival, and your self worth directly to the person who is actively destroying you. Now, another undeniable sign is a tactic called triangulation. A dark triad person cannot stand a secure, stable two-person relationship because security takes away their power. To keep you feeling insecure and off balance, they will deliberately bring a third person into the emotional dynamic of the relationship. That third person could be a hot coworker, a flirtatious friend, an ex-partner who suddenly starts texting them again, or even a family member. They will drop these subtle passing comments to compare you to this person and make you look bad. They'll say things like, oh, wow, this person was so passionate about their career. It's so attractive. Or my ex never complains when I wanted to go out with my friends, or, stuff like that. And when you get hurt or jealous and bring it up, they will immediately flip the script and call you insecure, controlling, or crazy. The point of triangulation is to force you to compete for their attention. They want you working overtime to keep them happy so that you are completely focused on winning their approval instead of noticing how terribly they are treating you. Also, you will notice a complete lack of real empathy and reciprocity, which becomes painfully obvious whenever you are going through a personal crisis. Whether you're sick or even having a major success, because these people don't have the emotional hardware to actually care about another person. They view your vulnerability, your illness, or even your achievements as a huge inconvenience or as a threat to their spotlight. So if you get sick, instead of bringing you medicine and taking care of you, they will get annoyed, cold, and resentful. They'll complain about how your illness ruined their weekend plans or how annoying it is that they have to do the dishes. Or maybe you lose a family member and go through some type of a tragedy. They will offer this shallow fake condolence and then immediately demand that the focus come back to them, often picking a massive fight on the day of the funeral or somehow just bringing that focus back to them. Now, on the flip side, if you achieve something amazing, like getting a huge promotion, starting a successful business, or hitting a major milestone, they will not celebrate you. They will subtly put down your achievements, quietly change the subject, or completely ignore it because your success reminds them that you have value outside of what you can do for them. So we have to look at the deeper spiritual and psychological landscape of our own self concept and identity. Why do so many smart, loving, spiritually aware people fall into the trap of the dark triad? Why do we stay in these relationships for months or years, long after the warning signs have become loud sirens, right? The honest truth is that it usually connects to an unhealed spot within our own identity, specifically a pattern of overgiving or low self worth, or sometimes even having a little bit of a savior complex. A lot of us were raised to believe that our value as a person is tied to how much pain we can endure, or how much we can sacrifice, or how unconditionally we can love someone through their darkest moments. When we meet a dark triad person who tells us a sad story about their past or shows us a glimpse of a broken inner world underneath their arrogant exterior, our empathy goes into overdrive. We tell ourselves this beautiful spiritual lie that if I could just love them deeply enough, if I could just be patient enough and hold space for them, they will finally feel safe enough to heal and drop their mask or to change, or that we can change them over time. Well, that's the ultimate trap for a loving soul. It is a form of spiritual ego to think that our love is so powerful that it can completely rewrite someone else's clinical personality structure, right? A dark triad person does not want to be healed, they want to be served. They feed off your endless patience and your willingness to tolerate bad treatment in the name of unconditional love. When we stay in a relationship that is effectively destroying us under the guise of holding space, we aren't practicing high vibrational spirituality. We are practicing self abandonment. We are using that relationship as a mirror that reflects back an unhealed belief that we have to earn love through suffering. To change this dynamic permanently, we have to go through a profound evolution of our own identity. We have to stop seeing ourselves as an available savior and start seeing ourselves as a fierce protector of our own life force. We have to realize that our love and empathy are sacred and that it must be guarded and invested only in relationships that have mutual respect, safety, and real reciprocity. The beautiful thing is that the moment you start healing your self concept, the attraction to these dark personalities completely disappear. When you have an unshakable baseline of self worth, love bombing doesn't feel romantic anymore. It actually feels incredibly creepy and suspicious. When someone tries to rush your relationship or push past your boundaries, you don't change your life to make them happy. You calmly and firmly close the door and walk away. You stop looking at relationships as projects to fix or broken souls to save, and you start looking at them through the lens of safety and alignment. You realize that you do not owe anyone your sanity or your peace or your energy, no matter how sad their backstory is or how charming their mask was at the beginning. So, how do we practically apply this to our lives starting today? How do we take this warning guide and ground it into real life practices to keep ourselves safe? The first and most powerful tool is radical grounding and reality testing. If you are currently in a confusing situation or dating someone new, you need to establish an objective anchor for your reality that lives completely outside of that relationship. Write everything down. Keep a private, highly secure journal on your phone or in a book where you record exactly what's happening, and even direct quotes from conversations right after they happen. When your partner tries to gaslight you and say they never said that or tells you that you're making things up, you need to take notes of it. Arguing with a dark triad person is a total waste of time because they don't care about the truth. They only care about winning the argument. Instead, look at your journal. Let those written facts be your anchor. Trust your own eyes and ears. When you see that your written reality completely contradicts their fake stories, stop trying to get them to admit the lie. Use that clarity to plan your silent, strategic exit out of that relationship. The second practice is setting explicit, firm boundaries with zero negotiations. Test the people you are dating early on by saying a simple, clear no. No, I can't meet up with you tonight, or no, I'm not comfortable sharing that person's information yet, or no, I don't like it when you speak to me like that. Test them just on basic little things like that. Watch their reaction like a hawk. If they respect your no, if they accept it without making a passive aggressive comment and adjust their behavior, you are likely dealing with a safe, emotionally healthy person. If they pout or try to make you feel guilty or try to push past the boundary anyway and start gaslighting you to make you feel bad for even having a boundary, don't give them a second chance. Do not make excuses and assume that they just had a bad day. Treat that single reaction as a massive warning sign of a dark triad personality and cut contact immediately. Now, the third practice for anyone who is currently realizing they are stuck in a relationship with a dark triad person is to implement no contact or the gray rock method. If it is safely possible for you to do so, the absolute best way to handle a person like this is to cut them off completely and permanently. Block their number, block their social media, block their email, and do not let them have any access to your energy. They will try to pull you back in, which is a tactic called hovering, using every trick that they can, from sudden emergencies to crying and promising that they've changed, but do not fall for it. It is just a calculated move to get control back. If you can't go full contact because you have kids together or legal issues or business ties, you must master the gray rock method. And this means you turn yourself into the most boring, uninteresting, unresponsive thing possible, just like a plain gray rock. You give them absolutely zero emotional energy, zero reaction, and zero personal information. You respond to their texts or emails with short, factual, one word answers like yes, no, or a specific time for drop off. When they try to insult you or provoke you or start a fight to get an emotional reaction out of you, you stay completely flat, detached, and unbothered. These personalities feed on emotional reactions, both good and bad. The second they realize they are never going to get the drama, reaction, or validation from you, they will naturally lose interest and move on to find someone else to bother. As we wrap up this deep conversation, I want you to just sit for a second with the incredible power, strength, and resilience that is rising inside you right now. Walking through this world with an open, loving, empathetic heart. It truly is a beautiful gift, but a gift that isn't guarded is easily stolen. Learning how these dark personalities operate, understanding the red flags of love bombing, mirroring, and gaslighting, and recognizing that heavy fog of confusion inside toxic relationships isn't about becoming cynical, cold, or afraid of love. It's about equipping yourself with the deep wisdom, clarity, and boundaries that you need to make sure your beautiful light is only ever shared with people who are truly worthy of it. You are the absolute ruler of your life, the protector of your peace, and the creator of your reality. No one has the right to warp your truth or put down your worth or use your empathy for their own selfish gains. If this talk has brought up some big realizations about your past or present, honor those insights. Trust your gut completely. That little whisper inside your stomach is the literal voice of your soul guiding you back to safety, back to alignment, and back to who you really are. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Adeana's Diary. Stay grounded, stay aware, protect your beautiful energy, and I will connect with you in the next one.